Good afternoon, everyone. I was just setting up our live situation, getting us prepared to go live on Facebook. I think that should be there. If not already, then in just about a second. Go ahead and stop sharing my screen since that wasn't my intent to start off that way. Again, hey, everyone. I'm so happy to see you all here. I know we're waiting for a few people, but I want to make the most of the session, so I won't wait too long for others to join us. Thank you for those that are with us. Something that you noticed that I did on my screen today, I'm going to encourage that you also do that. I have my name and then I put the organization or company that I'm with. So in this case, I put Hustle. I really encourage that each of you all do that today, kind of as a form of our introduction. If you all remember the first week in this session, we did something similar where you put a word that described you or your business. So I'm really asking you to do the same thing this time, but put the name of your business. And if you don't have a business, that's okay. You don't have to do that. You can just leave your name as is. And then there's nothing that particularly we're going to do with that. I just kind of want to have you get in the routine of doing things like that when you are in settings with others, especially virtual or hybrid settings. So yeah, that's where we are, and that's I just wanted each of you to have the opportunity to do that. And if you don't remember how to do that, you just click on those three dots. And on those three dots, you should be able to see where it says rename, and you can update the name that way. But with all of that said, hello, everyone. I didn't even realize today was a holiday until someone said it to me. I was like, in quarantine, in the pandemic, time really has no meaning. What is it that you say about time, Marlene? I can't remember what you're saying is about time, but it cracks me up every time.
It's Blur's Day. Every day is Blur's Day.
That's right. It's Blur's Day. So yeah, we'll jump right into it. I want to first go ahead and do introductions. For those that are not familiar, I am Magalia Synth. I serve as the interim executive director of Hustle Winston-Salem, which is an organization dedicated to inclusive entrepreneurship. I just saw your message in the chat, Tony. I agree. An organization dedicated to inclusive entrepreneurship and inclusion all around. And this particular session, series that we do called Marketing Outside the Box, we do it every week where we explore different marketing techniques and tactics. This particular month, our focus is on networking as a form of marketing. And that's what we've been talking about all month, and we'll continue to talk about today. And we do this in partnership with the Foresight Tech Small Business Center as well as Flywheel Co-working. So if you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Once again, I encourage you all to put the name of your business in your name. I see some of you have done that, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. Just a quick recap of for those that are with us for the first time. And again, if you want to, please feel free to drop your name and your business, social media links, things of that nature in the chat. Also on Facebook, those joining us on Facebook Live, feel free to do the same thing so that we can get to know each other better beyond this moment. And just a quick recap. You all can see my screen, right? You see the title screen that just says The Art of Virtual Networking. Is that correct? Yeah. All right. Last time I did this, I had everybody looking at my speaker notes the entire session and no one said it to me. And I was like, why didn't you tell me? But yeah, so, just over the last few weeks, we've been exploring different marketing tactics and concepts and theories. Over the first week, we really went into a few concepts and really just reminding everyone the importance of bringing value into any any networking situation, whether it's in person or virtual. We talked a little bit about what marketing has, why I keep saying marketing, what networking has looked like for those of us in 2020 and 2021, how it has changed, what was similar, was it better? Did you feel like it was getting worse? We explored a video, which we'll actually come back to this video next week a little bit more again. We went through the whole concept of random versus smart networking and really how we make the most of smart networking. We talked about making sure we have the right tools when connecting with others and networking with others in virtual environments. And then we just went through a few tips for purely virtual events, just a few tips that we thought would be valuable to you, and hopefully you did find value in those tips last week. And that brings us to where we are today. And today we are primarily focused on hybrid networking. That will be the focus of today. So again, the first week we covered concepts and some theories. The second week we really went through some things related to purely virtual events, and today we're going through hybrid events. And then next week we're touching on engagement, and then the final week we're going through some final tips and tactics that we think would be beneficial to you. So I'm sure you all know this when you registered for the session, but just a reminder that, again, networking is the least expensive yet most effective way for you to market your business. So if you ask yourself, why are we talking about networking in a marketing session? That's why. Networking is the least expensive yet most effective way for you to market your business. So it's really important to us that you know how to do it. So that's why we're spending time focusing on making sure you know the best ways to network, whether it's in person or in a virtual environment. Again, most of today's presentation is primarily focused on networking at hybrid events, but I do want to quickly just briefly mention that you can also consider how you network in hybrid scenarios in one-on-one or small group personal encounters. So, that can look like deciding to meet for coffee, for example. If it's one person, if it's 5 people and you're meeting with them, my earrings are really shining through the screen. Hopefully it's not giving you all too much. But if you and one person or you and a group of people need to have a meeting, a really good way to kind of set that up in a hybrid environment is you all decide, whether you're in the same city or whether you're in different cities, you all decide, instead of just getting on our screen in our homes for this meeting, this session, whatever it is that we're about to do, why don't you go to your favorite local coffee shop? I'll go to my favorite local coffee shop, and we're gonna do our coffee meeting that way. Or, even if you're in the same park, let's go to a park. You go to one side of the park, I'll go to the other side of the park. And what that does, that kind of sets you up differently. It sets your environment up different. So that's just some quick things that you can think about for one-on-one hybrid events. Really, when you're thinking about personal hybrid interactions, really just think about, what would you have done pre-COVID to meet with someone in person, and just do that with a computer. Just think about it that way. And next week, we'll really explore more engaging ways that you can really interact with people. I'm really excited about some of the ways that I'm going to share, and we're going to actually go through some of those ways and practice some of those ways during the session next week. But we'll focus more on engagement next week. But I just wanted to share that again, because today we're focusing more on hybrid events as a larger group, as opposed to you and your individual one-on-one or small group situations. Okay. So my hope is that this session is beneficial to you, whether you are hosting or attending a hybrid networking event, and beneficial to you in that you learn ways to engage networking, you learn ways to engage in networking, or ways that your brand or your company can create networking opportunities that ultimately serves you and those that attend those opportunities. So hybrid events are essential to your networking strategy. We talked about virtual events being that as well, but I really want to stress hybrid events are also essential to your networking strategy. And the truth is, hybrid events are already happening and they're already succeeding. So, like we always say here, we're going to give it to you straight, no chaser. We don't want you to be left behind. We never, ever want you to be left behind in any of these things. So we want to make sure that you're either on target or ahead of the target. So if you're not already considering that as a form of marketing your business and your brand, or attending those to increase your network, make it a priority. And the reality about hybrid events is they're probably here to stay, even when things return to normal. And you see me doing air quotes with normal, because if you remember, I think it was April of 2020 when we did our marketing outside the box session. It was when we did pivoting during the pandemic. Something that we stressed to you during that series was that things actually won't ever return to normal. We'll just have a new normal, right? So even when things get back to the new normal, or as close to normal as we know it, hybrid events are likely they're here to stay. So you might as well be on your A game. So if you ever need to go back to that, feel free to email us or visit our Facebook page and go back to the April 2020 session around that, and you can go back and get those tips. So while we're thinking about these hybrid scenarios, just recognize and understand, especially if you're hosting one and not attending one, they do require more implementation. But even though they require more implementation, they offer more benefits. It's worth you going the extra mile. And some of those benefits include expanding your reach and your brand, from those who haven't heard of you to those who have thought about attending events in person for a while, or those who still aren't that comfortable attending events in person. Providing a hybrid scenario, or you participating in a hybrid scenario overall, helps your brand get more recognition. And again, for those that may have joined us a little late, what you've noticed with most of us is, with our name today on our screen, we also added the name of our business and or organization. And we're not doing anything with that today, but it's just a simple way for when you're attending events virtually or in a hybrid setting, for people to immediately want to know more about you. And I can speak from experience that I've attended sessions, whether it was hustle that I had there, or whether it was my events business, or whether it was my oil business, especially since a lot of those are just acronyms up front. I always get direct messages from people. What is that? Tell me more about that. Can you share a website? And it's quick brand recognition. So I just really want to get you in a habit of doing those things when you're in settings like this. So again, expanding your reach. The other benefit of hybrid events is it provides you access to greater data and analytics. And you all know we stretch that a lot as well. So if you want to grow and improve your brand, you just need to understand the areas where you thrive and areas where you lack. And when you do things virtually, when we do things online, there's just a great opportunity to collect that data. And you can collect some of that data in person as well, but you can track and really follow that data when you have an online presence. So that's another benefit. And then lastly, again, it's the flexibility you provide to people, whether you're attending or whether you're hosting. Providing people more than one option really does make a difference in this day and age as we think about hybrid events. So those are some of the benefits immediately. And then at the end of the day, getting networking right is essential for all hybrid events. It is essential. Why? Well, when you host or attend a hybrid event, you are connecting a physical and a virtual event together. And the overall goal, as you see here, the overall goal is for in-person and virtual attendees to connect together. So again, if you choose to host an event, no matter the size, it could be 5 people, it could be 500 people, no matter the size. And, now I am an event planner, so, I'm biased, but we all know that events are just marketing in human form. That's my definition of events. This is just a big human form version of marketing. But no matter the size of the event that you're hosting, engagement matters, whether it's 5 people or 500 people. Production matters, training your speakers matter, entertainment matter, opportunities for sponsorship matter, all of that matter. And we won't get into any of that today. I'm just stressing to you, if you are choosing to host a hybrid event, those are things you need to think about it. And again, thinking back to past sessions, we did a session on virtual events back in September, I want to say. So you can always go back to our September 2020 Marketing Outside the Box and review those concepts and tips and things regarding virtual events to help you through that process. But that ties directly into hybrid networking. So again, if you don't connect your physical and virtual audience together, you're not hosting a hybrid event. Audience interaction and participation is essential for a hybrid event, and networking is one of the easiest ways to bring the two audiences together. And I mean, I can't stress that enough. That networking not only brings the audience together, but it creates the environment that you need to make sure that your brand and the brands of others around you are in the best possible scenario. So when we think about hybrid events in general, so for me, hybrid means live streaming. It means live streaming a physical event, plain and simple. Like, streaming is a given. You stream your content from your physical venue to your virtual venue. That's just understood. And that in itself takes some work. Again, we're not going through all those details today, but that's something to keep in mind. And the audience can interact with your content via Q&A software. You can gamify ways for them to interact. You can do polling software. You can even do live chat. As we think about some of those things, last week, and you all should, for those that attended last week, you should have received this. If you were not here last week, you can always email us, or I'm sure Tasha from our team will ensure that she includes it when we send out this week's video as part of your notes. But you all may remember we shared, let me see if I can switch screens here. We shared this document with you. Did you all receive this for those that were here last week in your email? Yeah, so if you think about this document, when we think about Q&A, one of the ones that I would best suggest for Q&A is Slido. Slido is one of the best Q&A interaction situations. And again, when you receive this document, there's a number of virtual ways that you can interact. And we received this from our friends at Artist Thrive. But just kind of want to remind you that you have those assets. Go through them, use them, figure out the best way for them to work with you. And they are essential, whether you are doing group situations or one-on-one. We didn't get to it last week, but one of the things that I think I pointed out, let me see here. One of the things that I pointed out on last week's was it Sling? No, it's not Sling. It's one of the speed networking. It's Glips. Excuse me, Glips. Glips is speed networking for one-on-one interaction. So again, even if you're not interacting with a big group of 500 plus people, and you have a one-on-one situation where you need to network better, there are tools out there for you. Use them. So bringing you back to the presentation. Hopefully I'm doing my screen switching right, y'all. Am I back on the presentation? All right, awesome. So yeah, Slido is one of the great ones that you can think about from a Q&A standpoint when you're doing virtual or hybrid events, because it allows your in-person and your virtual audience to respond. And you can have that on the screen and you can see those responses. As you think about polling, there's something on that list that I sent you as well. I think it's on that list. And if it's not on that list, remember this, it's called Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere allows speakers. So if you're a speaker, if you have guest speakers, whatever, it allows you to ask multiple choice and or open-ended questions and present the anonymous responses in real time to the audience. So as people are responding, it's popping up on the screen, or you can read it out loud, however you decide to do. But that enhances your hybrid experience for people that are on the screen and for people that are physically in the space. Another really great one as you think about gamifying your hybrid experience is Kahoot. Kahoot is definitely on that list on that document I just showed you, but Kahoot is a free interactive game-based platform that can be used for polls, quizzes, and other forms of online audience engagement. And again, that allows your virtual audience to feel connected to what's happening in the physical space. And there are a number of ways that you can think about live chat. You can get real fancy and you can use Brilla. Brilla has a live chat feature on their platform and it's wonderful. But you can also use features like, for example, in Zoom right now, there's a chat feature. You can use that feature. A lot of times we attend webinars, even in Zoom, and for one reason or another, they disable the chat. And I just never understand that. As an event planner, I never understand that. But I will say, if the goal is networking, if you want people to be able to engage and interact with each other, don't disable that chat feature. Live chat is great for the audience and it's great for people. Some people don't want to speak, but they want to type and text and do all of that. Allow them that opportunity. I want to pause for a second before I talk about the hub and spoke method. I see some things popping up in the chat. Tony, is there something I should be aware of, whether it's in the chat or on with our Facebook audience, or am I good to continue? Or anyone, if Tony's
you're good to continue. They're mostly introductions to people's companies, and then the Facebook chat, people were just saying hello and good afternoon.
All right, cool. I just wanted to check in, which is another thing. Even with me just doing that, if you're attending or hosting a hybrid, even or a virtual event, like, don't forget your online audience. Don't just go and don't do check-ins. But anyways, so something else that I want to mention before I jump into the hub and spoke method is when you're thinking about streaming, when you're thinking about Q&A and gamifying and live chats and polling and all of that, is you really need to pay special attention to the technology capability of the venue that you're using in person in a hybrid situation. You know, we talked about this during the first week about when you're in virtual meetings and just making sure you have the correct Wi-Fi and capabilities. But when you're setting up a whole hybrid situation and you're either at a venue, even if that venue is your home, like, it's really important that you have reliable, high-speed Wi-Fi. It's pretty much a must if you want to provide those watching from home with a seamless, glitch-free experience. And I think that's really important for hybrid situations, because you don't want the virtual part of your audience to feel like they got neglected during this process. So it's really important that you take the extra time to even if it means investing in a hotspot just for that particular thing, to give you a little extra boost with your internet. Okay, so the hub and spoke method as we think about hybrid events. So there's a gentleman by the name of David Adler, right? And he introduced the hub and spoke method strategy, and it pretty much suggests that large events split up into small events all across the nation, connecting audiences with the hub center, being the physical location where you're running all of the technology from. So again, to be honest, that could be right in your home, to be honest, right? But I would hope that you would think about having it in a venue. So think about it like this. So instead of having 5,000 attendees attending a single place, you spread them through 500 different locations. You have 500 different locations throughout the country. And you don't have to go that big. It could be just in a city. Instead of having 1,000 people attend one event in a city, you choose 10 locations within that city, and you'll separate people based on that throughout the city, right? That's kind of what the hub and spoke method pretty much stresses. And everything from the entertainment to the educational content, it's streamed all at the same time, simultaneously, to all of these venues as it would be to a typical virtual audience. You know what I mean? So everyone's getting the same content at the same time and engaging in it all at once, which once again is why it's so important that their Wi-Fi is reliable. And this method really promotes the in-person aspects while respecting the restrictions that we currently are all under. You really get to provide people with that opportunity to be to feel safe in an environment with a smaller number of people, but still interact and engage, and you're still respecting restrictions and following the rules and the law. And it allows for a more tight-knit feel between your attendees, and they really get the opportunity to network. So yeah, I mean, I think the idea that there are other people with their own groups attending the same thing that you're attending, it further encourages the connection. And not only amongst those in the venues, in the various venues, it doesn't really just encourage it there, but also with others watching from their own location. So this model can really present unprecedented examples in a surge of successful networking for hybrid experiences going forward. And I think Tony had something to say, as well as Michael. Or Tony, did you unmute by mistake?
No, I didn't unmute by mistake. Michael wanted to know, when you were talking about high speed connections, is that relevant to having a 5G connection?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question, Michael, but I will say this. I mean, I think we're beyond is 5G our highest speed right now, y'all? I think there's another
Yeah.
level beyond 5G.
Is it? I thought it was 5G.
Is LTE better than 5G? I don't remember.
No, 5G is better than LTE.
Okay, 5G is better. Okay, so 5G might be the best one out there right now. Michael, I will say this. That's a question for a tech person. When you're hosting these type of things, Michael, you want to make sure that you have a tech person on your team that's making these, if you're not familiar with it, making these type of decisions, or at least informing you with what you need to know to make the best decision. So, prime example, not to jump too much into events right now, but prime example, as an event planner, when we switched into mainly virtual events due to COVID, immediately I had to add someone in the tech space on my team all the time. Because while I understand what you're saying, I don't understand what you're saying, right? So I need this expert on my team to help me make the best decision for my client. So Michael, to answer that question to you, I would say talk to an expert, because I am not an expert when it comes to technology. And I always push one of our hustlers, Eric Green, who runs Open Media Lab here in Winston-Salem, for those that are local, even for those that aren't local. I think they offer really excellent services. So feel free to reach out to us if you ever want to be connected to them and find out more about their services.
Thank you.
No problem at all, Michael. Tony, was there anything else?
Yes, Kim wanted to know, for hub and spoke method, would this be using Zoom and then breakout groups, or is there other technology to do this?
Oh, Kim, there's so many options. That's almost a whole session in itself if I was to go through all those options. And what I might do, don't hold me to this because I might not do it. What I might do is maybe create a resource list for you all. Because again, as a planner, and even when I've worked with Eric with his company as well, as a technology company, he's even aware of all of them. But as a planner, I'm on different platforms all the time for different clients. The number of platforms that I've used in this last year is unbelievable. So you can go, I will say, is when it comes to a simple experience, things like this that we're on right now, Zoom is perfectly fine. Like, you don't need to stress yourself beyond that. But when you're trying to provide a full out experience for people, there are platforms that allow for better engagement, even down to the networking. Like when you do the breakout rooms, their networking scenarios are better. So there are other platforms. What's the name of this one that escapes me right now? I can't remember it right now, but yeah, there are a number of options, Kim, and it really just depends on what we say it all the time, create your goals,
right?
What you're trying to accomplish, and what you're trying to accomplish then helps you determine what's the best platform that you're
right. So maybe start simple using technology like what we already have as familiarity with Zoom, and then based on the real goal of the event.
Absolutely. And I would say again, it's based, I want to stress how it's based on that goal, because depending on what you're trying to accomplish, you might not want to start simple.
Right. My first
really depends.
Yeah, my first goal out of the gate is parent connection groups. I can house, there are so many parents of neurodiverse children in the community, and I want to really connect them. We used to do them, in person, and there are some with the Autism Society, but there's a certain, there's more out there. So that's what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, I think something like that, you could start simple with maybe a platform like Zoom or something similar to accomplish what you're wanting to accomplish. But let's just say you are wanting to have, 6 different main topics in that space, in your area, 6 main topics where you might have 3 keynote speakers or 6 keynote speakers, but you also want those that are, did you say it's autism? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, neurodiversity, right?
So let's just say you have, groups based in California, and groups based in New York, and individuals based in Atlanta, Georgia, as well as those in North Carolina. And you want them to be able to, based on their areas of expertise, only go to specific keynote speakers, but then also go to their individual breakout rooms and really delve deep into that.
Got
In a
it.
platform like Zoom, you're only going to have one keynote speaker at one time. And let's just say you've only carved out, you know that your audience will only focus and be committed for an hour and a half. Anything beyond that is not possible. And you
Right.
can easily do that in person because they can just go into that room and go into that room and go where they want. A platform like Zoom, you can't do that on, but there are other platforms that you can say, okay, we'll have 3 keynote speakers in 3 different rooms going on, and then we'll have the, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to get too deep into it, but you got to think about what
Yeah.
your goals are.
On
Yeah,
the scope. Mhm. Got it.
right.
Thank you.
No problem. Tony, anything else before I move on?
Yes, Michael wanted to know, is Hub and Spoke like you can switch views from view to view while doing an event?
So I want to stress that hub and spoke is just a method. So it's just what it's called as far as the idea of having a central hub and then being able to create that experience in multiple locations. So when you're saying switch from view to view, whatever technology you choose, again, like I was just explaining to Kim, whatever technology you use at the central hub location is what everyone will experience. So if you choose a platform that allows you to switch view to view, Michael, then yes. But hub and spoke itself is not the technology. It's just a model, a concept. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. I see you nodding. All right. So anything else, Tony? I'm sorry. No, we're good. Okay. So in short, both audiences, when you're talking about doing a hybrid event, both your physical venue as well as your virtual venue, they need to be able to engage and interact with each other. And some of these things on the screen are just some quick, simple ways that you can ensure that that happens. And we'll go a little deeper into this before the end of this session today. So let's see. But what happens when the stream ends? Let's just say, you're not streaming something specifically. There's nothing on the screen for your virtual audience to attend or pay attention to. How do you manage that? How do you make sure that it's still valuable to them? So what happens is that the audience loses the hybrid connection. Your virtual attendees and your physical attendees are no longer connected. You lose that connection for that moment, whether that moment is 5 minutes or 50 minutes. In the time that you're not streaming something, that hybrid connection is lost unless it's created. And again, this matters whether you are attending an event or whether you are hosting an event, so that you can know how best to engage if you're attending, and you can best know how to host if you're hosting. So the physical audience, obviously they can rely on random encounters, coffee breaks and other interactions like that in person. But as we think again about the virtual participants, we really have to spend some time in processing that. And one answer to that question about what about them is, facilitated networking. You get real interaction and engagement with this approach. It ensures both audiences can break the barriers and connect with anyone, no matter where they are. So whether you choose to do a one-on-one breakout situation or in networking situation, whether you choose to put your virtual audience in groups, whether you choose to have a facilitator in a particular and keep the group together and the facilitator is talking to the virtual audience at that time, whether you decide to give the audience a prompt, and whether that's in the groups or as a larger group, you give them a prompt to respond to. You just make sure that they are engaged during any time you're not streaming something, so that you didn't forget that you have a virtual audience. Don't have your in-person audience doing something for 30 minutes and your virtual audience is just kind of like, okay, right? So you want to make sure that you think about them to ensure that your hybrid experience is still filled with a lot of networking opportunities. And also the advantage, like facilitating networking helps save time for both your physical and your virtual attendees. So instead of a typical 30-minute or 1-hour session, for example, you can have 3 15-minute focused meetings in 1 hour. As opposed to trying to host this big thing in an hour or 50 minutes, you can honestly say, all right, we're going to have 3 15-minute focused meetings in this 1 hour block. And that I'm only saying 3 because you want to include 5-minute breaks in between each 15-minute session. And you can cross connect your audiences this way. You can have your in-person audience connected to a virtual person, or you can have virtual and whatever, however you choose to do it. You're just making sure that everyone's pretty much getting the same quality experience in this way, in providing the opportunities. You're facilitating opportunities to network. Other ideas to how you manage when the streaming stops. Other ideas include, creating virtual chat rooms and breakout sessions. And you're asking yourself, well, what's the difference? Why isn't a chat room a virtual session, a breakout session? Chat rooms could really, honestly, in my mind, it's just allowing people to have this space to just be, to just talk, to just, breakout sessions. You feel like there needs to be some structure to it of some sort. A virtual chat room, many of you may remember chat rooms. You would talk about anything. Just like if this was an in-person networking opportunity, you can move to the corner and talk to somebody about anything, not even related to the session, right? So you want to make sure that those things are available, and it allows remote attendees to really get to know each other and interact with each other, because that's still important. That most people come to events to network, whether it's virtual or in person. Most people come to events to network. You can also, provide hosts and moderators that can help facilitate interactions. I think I mentioned this already, but just really thinking through that process and making sure that you have someone that can engage both sides, virtual and in person. And don't forget to use social media channels. Y'all know we love social media at Hustle. Don't forget to use social media channels and dedicated to your event. Like we talked about hashtags back in January or February. Have a hashtag for this particular situation, or encourage people to go follow each other on LinkedIn and connect beyond this session, or things of that nature. Like you can always make use of social media when you're hosting hybrid events. Let's see, we talked about live polling, but you can also do virtual business card exchanges. And I think the platform, one of the most popular platforms for virtual business card exchanges, I think it's called Hi Hello, HIHELLO, I think, Hi Hello. I'm pretty sure that's the name, don't quote me, but I think that's the right name. And you can encourage people to, do a virtual business card exchange while they're at your hybrid event, so they can get each other's contact information. But, honestly, we're in a day and age where putting your information right in the chat is perfectly fine. Drop your email address. I'll copy and paste it and reach out to you. You know what I mean? So whatever works for you, whatever's easiest for you. I am a stickler to just send somebody my Calendly link. Schedule a meeting with me immediately. Go ahead, do it. So whatever works for you, whatever are great ways for people to network. Because I can tell you there are a number of times I meet people, whether I'm on a panel or whether I'm attending something, I meet them in the chat, and I'm very careful to say, here's my link, schedule something. And I would say 9 times out of 10 people do schedule something, and I don't remember them until we are actually in that meeting. That when we're actually in the meeting that they schedule, I'm just like, oh yeah, and we just have a great opportunity to connect, and it's wonderful. So yeah, so those are some things that you can think about. Let me see if I left anything out. No, I think that's the most of what I wanted to express. I think stressing to your hosts and moderators and your facilitators the importance of keeping the energy with people is always key as well. And even if you are attending something, like you recognize most times that people try to get a host or a moderator that can keep that energy going, right? So yeah, let's see where we are. So I think a few more things before we close out for today. So along with considering kind of the features that we've already talked about, you also want to offer your in-person audience creative ways to interact with your online audience. You don't want them to forget that you have an online audience, right? And if you're in attendance as a virtual person, you don't want to be on the Zoom or whatever platform they're having talking about something. What's going on in the virtual space? Like, you have this camera and you can see all of them, but you feel left out. You don't want that. You kind of want it to be seamless. So you want to think about creative ways to bring those audiences together beyond what we shared. So those that'll be present at the event, again, they won't immediately like think about networking with those that are remote. It's just not, that's not human nature for us to think about it that way. So you want to offer those that are in person incentives and tools that promote this interaction. Like that's probably your best bet in these scenarios. And this can be achieved through technology, plain and simple. Technology provides us with so much in this day and age, and we have to be grateful and thankful for it. So providing those who are physically present at the venue with access to the platform and tools that the virtual audience is using is key. A lot of times people do this through an app, because while a virtual audience is probably on their computer or something like that, your physical audience can connect with virtual tools. More than likely, they're going to do it on their phone. You might have somebody on a tablet or on a computer, but majority of them are going to do it on the phone. So you want to think about that. Make sure that they have access to the Kahoot and to all of that on their phone in order for everybody to engage with it the same way. Again, when you think about it seamlessly and make sure everybody understands it, the chat rooms, the business card exchanges, the one-on-one interactions, video or direct messaging, all of that gets amplified in a positive way to your in-person audience. And again, if you have an MC or a host or somebody who's serving as the voice for your remote audience, kind of stressing to them, like, walk people through the process of using the technology. Take the extra 5 minutes to tell them how this is flowing, because you want to take a little extra care with your virtual audience to understand what's going on with your physical audience, and vice versa. Like, it means it's not hard to go above and beyond to ensure that you're providing people at the venue with the same, people that's virtual with the same importance, if you will, with those that are at the venue. But also thinking about the people that are at the venue, you want to provide enough incentive for them to want to be able to continue to connect. And this may sound simple, but thinking about things like thinking about things like gamifying prizes, for example. If you connect with three of our remote folks, blah, 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 you have the opportunity to win this, or blah, just think through it. Think through ways that you can make sure that networking is happening in person and in a virtual situation. But again, simply put, networking is essential to keep your audience engaged no matter what in a hybrid environment. So no matter where your content is, no matter what your content is, you want to make sure that they're engaged both in person and online. And there are ways that we can ensure that we offer quality networking opportunities for all of the participants. You see there are six kind of notes on the screen there for you, and I'll try to get through all of them in the next 15 minutes. But really what you want to think about when you're wanting to ensure that you're providing these opportunities, these are just some random tips, and these tips were provided by Brilla. Actually, I found them on the Brilla site. So thanks to them, shout out to them. But the first thing you want to think about is providing a central location for all of your attendees to meet online. What are you talking about, Max? Didn't you just already tell us that? No, think about what I'm saying. I've already mentioned, yes, you need to connect the two audiences together, but also segmenting your audience, it kind of can create a poor networking experience. So if you are, I'm not saying not to create virtual only spaces and in-person only spaces, but you don't want to segment the entire experience. You want to be able to bring both physical and virtual together, and providing a central location to do that is key. So I think it was Kim who asked about it, some of those platforms that I mentioned that I can't remember the names of for some reason. but it's so many of them. Oh gosh. So many different platforms that you can think of. Just really thinking through which platform is really going to bring both audiences and provide the best experience. Is what you want to think about when you're thinking about a central location. That's what I mean. So even if people can't be together face to face, they can still interact with each other on this forum. Was someone about to say something? I think I heard something.
Yeah, Michael would like to know, could you give an example of a hybrid networking event that you experienced that used the most components of these hybrid resources?
So just a platform is what you're asking for, Michael? So Hopin, I think that's the platform I
In
couldn't
an
remember.
event.
Yeah, just an event that had all of these, that the most of the components that you've spoken about.
Let's see, I attended an event well, actually, I just attended one in February, but I was going to mention one that I attended back in September. So the one in February was the Startup Grind. I'm not sure how familiar you all are with Startup Grind, but I attended their conference, and their conference was amazing. I did in their conference, I would say it probably was mainly virtual, but they did have a hybrid experience. But the one that I was thinking about first was an event I attended back in September, Michael. It was called Artivate. That's what it's called. It was amazing. And there's another one that I'm actually in the middle of planning right now that's coming up this year. And we're planning a hybrid experience. And again, Michael, your experience is going to be as good as your platform. I'm telling you, in each of these situations has been a different platform. The platform I couldn't remember before, Kim, I just remembered it. And Michael, I think it'll be valuable for you to look into it as well. It's called Hopin, Hopin, one word. Again, that's one example, and I think Hopin is more on the expensive end. So I'm not saying you have to use that platform, but it's just an example of seeing how you can really make hybrid events. Like kind of just looking at their website and going and just kind of seeing the features. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Yes, with the Artivate, pardon me, with the Artivate, what was some of the projections that you experienced there?
I don't think I understand your question, right? What you mean projections?
What about the physical venue of the Artivate experience?
You said what about it?
Yes. How was the physical experience? Was that people who weren't on site or off site, or how would you explain that?
Yeah, so those that were on site, some of them. So the speakers, well, not all of the speakers, but a lot of the speakers were on site. The host, I mean, I was on site. There were quite a number of people on site for it, but there were also a virtual audience. And, in addition to the programming that they provided and things of that nature, how they kept us all connected, whether we were there in person or whether you were joining virtually, they use Slack. And I'm not sure how familiar you all are with Slack, but it's another communications tool. But whether you were there in person or whether you were virtual, it didn't make a difference when you were in that Slack feature, because we were all talking to each other and we were all connecting, and we still connect to this day. So I hope that's a helpful answer to you, Michael. I can always get a little deeper with you beyond today. But that was an example of, in person, it was great. Virtually, it was great. They did a great example. They were a great example of feeling seamless. You're not really realizing the difference between being in person or being virtual, because you just felt that engaged.
Thank you. I'll look at Artivate, Hopin, and Slack.
Okay. Tony, were you about to say something to me?
Yes. How long were the events you're mentioning? Kim wants to know.
They varied, Kim. So for example, Startup Grind was over the course of 3 days. Autovate was over the course of 2 days. I've been on events on Hopin that was 4 hours. Like it varies. Again, that goes back to the goals and what you're wanting to accomplish. Yeah, because a lot of these, like for example, the one that was over the course of 3 days, Tony knows that's something that in person they would have done over the course of a week. it would have been a week-long conference. So they condensed it over the course of 3 days in a hybrid experience. Yeah. So a few more things before we run out of time here is another tip as you think about hybrid events is, or hybrid networking rather, you want to offer matchmaking services for everyone. And I don't mean like an official service, but I think I already mentioned that most people come to events for networking. I think it's like somewhere between 70 and 90, maybe 95% of people that attend these things, their communication is nonverbal, right? They're not really saying anything, but you can see everything on their face or kind of see how they're moving. So with that in mind, you want to create these matchmaking services, whether that's in registration, you find out things about people, and then you intentionally say, we have breakout time and we've matched you with this person to get to know each other, or this group with that group. However, like you want to facilitate, goes back to that facilitated networking that I talked about. You really want to create some relevant matches, and that could be both with your virtual and physical attendees. It doesn't matter, because you're matching skill sets or experiences, or you can do the complete opposite, and you can match people that have nothing to do with each other and say that you want them to engage with each other. So again, think about your goals, think about what you're wanting to accomplish, and facilitate some of that that matchmaking in hybrid settings to kind of make sure both audiences are engaged with each other. You also want to provide, so I mentioned earlier that you don't want to separate people, but you want to provide dedicated areas for your physical audience. And what I mean by dedicated areas is you want to make sure that in your physical space, since you do have a virtual audience as well, in your physical space, you want to make sure that there is power outlets for charging devices. You want people to still be able to connect to the audience. Like, let's just say my laptop is with me, but it has 10% left, but I really met this cool person on the virtual thing, and if I don't have that connection, I'm going to lose it. So you don't want a space that limits, power outages, like outages, am I saying outlets, excuse me, power outlets. You want to make sure power outlets are there, again, stressing Wi-Fi. But also when you think about your physical audience, I'm not going to stress this too much, but this does have an impact on how people network with each other, how they feel comfortable in the space. You want to think about things as simple as desks and chairs and standing tables, anything to make people a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more relaxed, so that they can feel like they can network with people, whether they're networking with other people that are there physically, or whether they're deciding to spend 30 minutes in that open space and networking with somebody virtually, and they're going to stand there for 30 to 45 minutes, or they want to sit on some soft seating for 30 to 45 minutes as they're talking to someone in the virtual area. You just want to think through that process. Let's see what else. You want to educate your attendees on best practices as it relates to the hybrid meeting or the hybrid event. And some of this kind of ties into some of the things we've been talking about throughout this entire series so far, and that's like making sure that they get in a proper environment. Like, educate them on what that environment means. Like, talk to them about good lighting, and you can do that in advance. You can do that like via email, or you can do that at the start of your event. You can do that, as you open your event. That could be part of your introduction. You can do it halfway through the event. You can do it if you have a multi-day event. You can do it at the start of each day, however you decide to do that. Educate them on best practices. Talk to people about potentially using headphones and mics to best facilitate their networking with others. Help them understand that, if you're not in the best space to have conversation, if you have, 50,000 things going on in your background, such as your TV and your radio and whatever else, your dog barking at a mile a minute, you may not be in the best situation to facilitate or to network with someone, because they're trying to get to know you. So think through that. Mentioning the Wi-Fi situation again, it's okay to tell people in these scenarios, like, we want you to connect with people, and whether you're in person or on the virtual platform, you may be connecting with those on the virtual platform, this isn't the time to also have Netflix streaming in the background and, you know, all these other things that are pulling from your Wi-Fi, because that's going to impact the virtual experience for those people trying to talk to you. And that's why it's also important for you, if you're hosting one of these things, that you have the best Wi-Fi in that area. Because if you have, let's say you have 75 people in attendance, if you have 75 people in attendance all using that same Wi-Fi, you also want to make sure you're giving them quality Wi-Fi to connect to your virtual audience. Okay, so think through that.
Question. What is the audience capacity, population potential of a hybrid event?
I don't think that I can directly answer that question. I think that's going to, if you mean as it relates to COVID, that's going to change, and that directive comes. I think you pay attention to what the CDC is saying, what the governor is saying. Like, I think that type of directive come from that area. But if you mean, you know, COVID-19 aside, if you're just hosting a hybrid event and we're not even thinking about COVID-19 because we have gone past it and it's not a factor and we are in a better place in this world, if you're talking from that inspirational mind frame, or aspirational mind frame rather, then I would say it's not really a limit. You know, if you think back to that hub and spoke method that I mentioned, the idea is that you're providing people with an opportunity to participate and network in these environments. And I don't think there's a limit. I'll tell you the same thing I told Kim. You really want to think about what you're trying to accomplish. So I think I mentioned last week or the week before, honestly, it's really easier to network in smaller groups, right? It's just easier to facilitate smaller groups in that way. So if you're using a platform like Zoom to host a hybrid event, I wouldn't recommend that you do over a certain amount of people. And I don't know what that number is, because it just really depends on what your goal is to whoever asked the question. But if you're, let's just say your hybrid event, and it's more complicated and there's more moving parts, things of that nature, it's okay, I think, to say you're going to have a hybrid event and you can have, let's just say you decide you're going to have 10,000 people in attendance at a hybrid event, and you use the hub and spoke method where in-person max, again, this is post-COVID, in-person max, you're probably going to have 1,000 people at the in-person location, but then you have 10 other or 20 other, 50 other locations throughout your city, your state, or the country. And at each location, you have an additional 500 to 1,000 people. Like, that's up to you, honestly. It just really depends on the amount of planning you put in advance, the technology you're using, all of that comes into play. So I hope that answers whoever asked the question. I hope that helps. So 2 quick things is transition times. When you're hosting a hybrid event, you really want to think about transition times. You heard me talk earlier about building in 5 minutes in between 15-minute networking situations. And that's important because your virtual audience, keep in mind, most times they're just sitting there. And a lot of people need you to say to them, take a minute and go get a drink of water, or go use the restroom, or just look out your window and look at the sun. Just build in transition times in between your programming and your networking opportunities when you are doing these or attending these things. And even if the host, if you're attending something and the host does not provide this, build it in for yourself so that you can be the best networker while you are there. You don't want to be cranky and annoyed because you need a snack, or you just need some sunshine and you need to step outside for 2 minutes in the sun, or you might need a bio break. You need to go to the restroom, right? So just kind of think through those things, those transition times. They're important, and you don't need to build in too much transition time. 3 to 5 minutes work. Those make a difference. And then in a hybrid situation, in person, serendipity happens. And you know, it's so great that today is St. Patrick's Day and we think about luck. Because and for those that aren't familiar, serendipity is just unexpected luck. Like, luck just happened in a good way, because you know luck can go either direction. But so unexpected good luck is the best way that I can kind of define serendipity. And in a hybrid scenario, that can just happen almost on its own in person. You want to create those in a hybrid situation. You honestly want to create opportunities for serendipity when you're hosting a virtual or a hybrid event, networking, whatever. And again, that can be through structured virtual networking. I think I talked a little bit about the speed networking platform that's on that document you all received. That's a great way to create serendipity. The breakout sessions is a great way. I mean, there's even, you can do a post stream or post event, post whatever type of environment. So if you do, whether it's in Zoom or whether it's a more advanced platform where you decide to tell people, hey, we're going to keep this space open for another hour or for another day, where you all have the opportunity to come back and connect with each other. And there's no structured program. We just know we put a lot on you. You met a lot of great people. You can choose, schedule some breakout meetings, use it on our time, and meet on our platform. I think we're at 1:30. I'm so sorry. A great example of this is our Hustle offers a community Zoom. And it's open to the public, and anyone can use it and schedule it, and the community uses it. But I think it's a great example of creating post-event, post-cap things. So even after marketing outside the box, people that have met each other here would go and schedule something on the community Zoom, and it's great. It's absolutely wonderful. So as I wrap up, and for those that may have questions, I'll stay a few more minutes. As I wrap up, I just kind of want to touch base on what we're going to cover next week. Next week, we're primarily focused on engagement, and then we'll close out the month with some additional tips and tricks that I have not gotten to yet for this month. But one thing that I'm really excited about for next week during the engagement piece, it's going to be really, really interactive. But I'll have some prizes too. And you'll receive the prize. We'll know who the prize winners are at the final session this month, but we'll have some prizes to kind of enhance the engagement session specific to helping you with your business and your brand, or it'll be maybe gift cards to minority and women-owned businesses. So that's something to look forward to as we do some of our engagement networking next week. And with that, again, I apologize. I didn't realize I was already over. That hour went kind of fast. I talk a lot. But do anyone have any additional questions? And if you have to leave, I definitely understand. Thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to join us next week, same time, same place. If you haven't already registered, please do register. And yeah, thank you so much, Danette. Thank you so much. So any other questions for me? And I apologize again that we went a little over. Anyone have any questions?
It's not a question, but before a lot of people leave, I just wanted to let people know that I'm hosting a 30-day LinkedIn challenge to help people boost their engagement on LinkedIn and their network. Completely free.
Through Tony. Come on, building the boss.
It's completely free, and then every day at 8:30, I'm going to drop a quick and easy prompt to get your engagement going on LinkedIn. It starts Saturday, the very first day of spring, for anybody that wants to participate.
Thank you so much, Christian. I saw your message pop up. Tony, if you can email that to Hustle WS Info and ask Tasha to include that when we send the information for this particular session today. When we send that video, we can include that in there so that anyone that wants to participate in that will have access to it, because we typically send that before Saturday. You're welcome, Joanne. All right, anyone else have any questions for me? And Zoom, my Facebook audience, I'm so sorry if you're asking questions. I just have too many screens in front of me. Normally, like I would have Alan or someone paying attention to pop in. So I will get back to you if you dropped anything in the chat. And I'm sure if something was there, Tony would have told me. But that's why I encourage my Facebook audience to join us in the Zoom so that we can get to your questions. You had something else, Tony?
Oh no, I was just saying, everybody, anything that was on the Facebook, I would have commented on.
Okay, great. And I think so far, Michael and Marianne are the only people that have taken advantage of my offer to provide you with the link to Clubhouse. So if anyone else is interested in that, please don't forget to let us know. And you have to be iPhone or iPad user. You're welcome, Lorena. And you know, even if I don't have the time to help you, I see Jasmine is here. Jasmine is also a queen at Clubhouse. I think she can also provide you some great insight. So yeah, if we don't have anything, I see my girl Nicole here. If we don't have anything else, I wish you all a great rest of the day. I heard if you're in North Carolina, I heard we're looking for some really bad weather tomorrow. So please be careful. Please be safe. Go get yourself something because they're telling us to have evacuation plans. And I'm like, what? But I love to see Kim's bird, y'all. Y'all just don't understand.
This is Sam. I'm going to see if I could get him to say bye-bye. Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Hello. Bye. He's waving. Bye. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. And thank you as well. I see the other Nicole. Thank you. I just saw your message pop up. But all right. Okay. Everyone have a great day. Let me go ahead and stop the live. And thank you to those that joined us on Facebook as well.